Hello, welcome to my first video on Jake the Car Nut. I'm Jacob. It's nice to meet you all. Hopefully there's people watching. um, I'm a car enthusiast. I'm hoping to become a journalist, an automotive journalist, and so I was sort of thinking that I perhaps would like to start a YouTube channel as well to kind of document my adventures, the things I get up to, and also some other things I enjoy. So I'll be talking about a lot of different things in my videos. I collect brochures, car brochures, so there'll probably be a few videos of that, including this one. Potentially if I go to car shows, I might do some videoing there. Possibly news, bits and bobs like that. And as well, I perhaps I'm going to cover some of my favourite cars of all time. I think that'd be quite an interesting thing as well. So hopefully you like this video. If you've got any suggestions for things you'd like me to do, then pop them in the comments down below. Please do subscribe if you enjoy yourself as well. So today I'm covering some of the brochures that I've received in the last couple of weeks. There's a few different brands in there, so hopefully you'll find some interesting ones that you like. So I'm going to start with this one. Hyundai Genesis Coupe. So this is actually an American brochure from 2011-12 time. I'll show you a few photographs from it rather than the whole brochure, because I don't want this video to be too long. Though if you are happy to watch longer videos, then do let me know and perhaps I will do some. So this was always an interesting car, really. It was the one I remember on Top Gear. They were talking about the shape of the rear window, how it sort of dipped. If I show you how it sort of dipped down a little bit, and they were saying that it was like the designer sneezed when he got to that bit. So you've got colours and trims in there. So then also from the same person we have the Hyundai Azera. So this is another model that may not be familiar to those from the UK. I believe this was also called the Grandeur, which was sold here in one generation. I don't know too much about this car because I'm not great with non-UK market cars, but I'm sure I will get more familiar with them eventually. So then we have the good old VW Beetle. This is the convertible model. It's a 2013 brochure. I did actually want this brochure because this has in it a couple of special editions that they did just on the convertible. I'll show you those. So you had this is the picture. So you had the 60s edition, the 70s and the 80s edition. Was it 60s, 70s, or was it 50? No, sorry, 50s, 60s, 70s. So, yes, you got the 50s one there, the black with the sort of moon dish wheels. And then you have the 60s one there, and the 70s, which is my personal favourite, with the brown, chocolate brown paintwork and the beige sort of Vienna leather. Is it Vienna leather? I think so. But yeah, that's really nice. And I've always liked this Beetle. I know some people kind of thought, well, what's the point of a not really cute Beetle? But I always really liked it because I liked the sportier image. Yeah, so that's that one. Then we have, this one's in a plastic wallet, so I should just remove that. We have the VW Fox, which I believe is still being made, actually. The same car, in fact, in South America and so on. I believe they're still selling it. However, this obviously was the UK one again. So this was sold between about 2005 and 2011, when the fabulous little Up came out. Well, the Up exclamation mark, should I say. So this was replacement for the Lupo, which a lot of countries will not know because it wasn't sold. It wasn't sold worldwide like the Fox was. Well, almost worldwide, because this didn't come to America either, I don't believe. It wasn't quite as... I've always preferred the Lupo. This wasn't quite as exciting. It didn't have as much personality to it, really. So, I've never been as big of a fan of that as I was of the Lupo. But anyway, so that's the Fox. We then have something a bit different. The Lexus LFA. This is just a little. This is just a little.
Morning or afternoon.
My Amazon Echo started talking then, as it does when I always say Lexus. But yes, so the LFA, I love this car so much. This is one of my top 3 cars of all time. I love everything about it. The engine is stunning. It looks fantastic. Yes, it costs £340,000, but do you know what? I don't actually mind that much. It's a silly price, but I really want one of them. Maserati Quattroporte. Now this was certainly a divisive car when it came out, because it was kind of, I would say it was kind of the first of the new generation Maseratis. So obviously following on from the old, like there's the 3200 GT and so on. And then obviously you've got the Gran Turismo, which had the same engine as this. So this is the original. So this is about 20 years old now, almost, which is a scary thought, really. But I did always like the Quattroporte, particularly the GTS model, which isn't in here, but that had the gorgeous V8 that also then went on to be used in the 8C, Alfa 8C, and the Disco Volante, of course, being an 8C underneath. But yes, it wasn't an objectively good car. However, it just had so much character and flair, as almost all Italian cars do. Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. Again, fabulous car. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful car. Gorgeous engine, 2.9 V6, twin turbo. Not quite as special as the Busso V6 that you got in things like the old GTV, as you can see on my t-shirt, and so on. But still a lovely car and a lovely engine to listen to. It's also got a nice interior. See, I like Alfa's interiors. They're not the best put together, but they look fantastic and they make you feel, at least looking at them, they make you feel special. The Mini convertible. This is the R57 generation. I was trying to think which one. It's actually Cooper model. Because you had Cooper and Cooper S. There was no diesels at that point, and they did do the Mini 1 convertible as well. So the way that these were launched was kind of weird, because this came out in 2010, well, about 2009, 2010, by which time the Clubman that was very similar had also been on sale since 2007, but then the new hatch came out the year later, after the Clubman that was. So it was always a very confusing sort of way of doing it. Chevrolet Trax. So this was actually one of the, well, it was the last new model that Chevrolet introduced to this country when they were a full brand, before they pulled out in, I believe it was 2015, the end of 2015, that they pulled out of this country and out of Europe in general. They still sell the Corvette and the Camaro, but they don't have a massive dealer network. There's just one dealer, I believe, at least in England, there's just one dealer that deals with the Corvette and the Camaro. Based on the Vauxhall Mocha. Not a particularly exciting car. But, you know, not many Chevrolets at the time were. In fact, actually it shows you the rest of the range on the back. So you had the Spark, the Aveo, the Cruze, the Orlando, Captiva, Camaro, Corvette and the Volt. The Kia Soul. which is an unusual car really, because they called it a crossover. So but then to me a crossover is an SUV, and this really wasn't one. But then it wasn't much of an MPV either, because it didn't have, you know, the sort of extra seats that you expect from an MPV. And they did, the other thing that was really weird about this, which I didn't actually know until I got this brochure, was they did some very odd special editions. Well, I don't know if they're special editions or if they were just normal trim levels, but they had the Tempest, which is this one here, and all of them basically had similar equipment levels, but different trims, colours, and so on. So that had, if you look, the Soul monogram on the seats. It had the shaker. That came in either what they called vanilla or chocolate, as in milkshakes, obviously. And the interior on that had the sort of houndstooth upholstery on the headrests and the top of the seats. You then had the Echo model. This just had plain interior, so this wasn't particularly exciting, but the idea obviously was that it was Echo, kind of dark and so on. The Soul Searcher, this came in a nice sort of army green with, actually rather unusual, it had sort of two-tone leather, brown and cream, which to be honest actually I quite like. And then finally, for the sportier types, the Soul Burner, which had graphics down the sides, red grille, red mirrors, black and silver wheels, and then a two-tone red and black interior, including the top of the dash and the centre of the steering wheel. Very unusual, that. Subaru Legacy. So this was the last ever Legacy to be sold in the UK. It was sold only as an estate, which was again the first time that they'd only sold the estate and not the saloon as well. They did sell the saloon in other parts of Europe, but we as a country kind of stopped buying saloons, at least stopped buying mainstream saloons in the early 2000s with the advent of the E46 BMW 3 Series and so on and so forth. But that'd be an interesting thing to talk about at some point, would be the fall of the mainstream saloon, at least in this country. You know, the Vauxhall Insignia's gone, the Mondeo's gone, the Passat saloon's gone, Legacy's gone. So that might be an interesting thing. If you want me to do something on that, I would be happy to come up with something. Just looking for, I didn't pre-plan the pages on this, I'm just kind of, as I'm going through, seeing if there's anything you might find interesting to look at. Next, something that a lot of you will not be familiar with, the Opel Monza. This is I love this car. So this was a large luxury coupe, obviously made by Opel, but also sold in the UK, because at the time, Opel and Vauxhall were both sold together in this country. Both had very similar models by this point. So you had the Cavalier and the Chevette and so on from Vauxhall, and then you had the Ascona, the Cadet and so on from Opel, which until sort of the early 80s they were very similar but not quite the same. But then with the introduction of the original Astra, Vauxhall Astra, and the Mark IV Cadet, I believe it is, they became pretty much exactly the same. And then obviously they dropped Opel because it didn't make sense to have them. Although they did keep the Monza and the Manta because there wasn't a Vauxhall equivalent until obviously the Calibra came out in the late 80s. So that's a really nice car, I like that one. This is only very, very small. It's the VW Polo Saloon. Polo is a car that most Americans will probably, well, they may have heard of, but they may not have seen before. So this was the Mark II facelift. This came along in the 90s. The original Mark II was 1982. This was the 90s one. They did a saloon, but as I said, mainstream saloons were not that popular. So by the mid 90s, this was gone, and it was just the hatchback that was left. Now the Subaru one, the Outback. So this is the same generation Outback as the Legacy we've just looked at. This they do still sell here, which is probably because it's got a bit more of a sort of SUV-ish nature to it, which the Legacy obviously doesn't have. I mean, it's not a terribly popular car. I mean, Subaru as a brand is not a particularly popular car. I think they only sell a couple of thousand a year in this country. Down from a lot more than that in the sort of 90s and early 2000s. I think partly due to the fall of the Impreza WRX. They don't sell the normal Impreza here anymore. They don't sell the WRX here anymore. Like I say, they don't sell the Legacy anymore. So we miss out on quite a lot of their newer models. So you had a 2-litre diesel and then a 2.5 petrol. It was very strange gearbox choices because you could only have a manual with the 2-litre diesel and you could only have an automatic with the 2.5-litre petrol. Two more. We have Rover 200 Coupe. So this actually is a really cool car. I know Rovers, old man, all that kind of thing, but actually if you take the badge off, you'd think, really nice car. And this was when Rover, I believe, were actually in profit, or were mostly in profit anyway, because the R8 Rover 200, which is what this one is, was actually a really, really good car. It was really profitable for them, which allowed them to make the lovely coupe version. And actually the coupe lived on a bit longer than the saloon, because the saloon, well I say saloon, the hatchback was replaced by the R3 Rover 200 in the mid-90s, which is the one that then became the Rover 25, but this lived on a bit longer. They also took sort of Toyota's idea of a T-bar roof, so you had removable roof panels for if it was a bit sunnier, and they would be stored in the boot. You could have full leather interior, which was very nice as well. That was the 216. So the 216 had a slightly different front bumper. It wasn't quite as aggressive looking. Yeah, so you had 216, 220 and 220 turbo. 220 turbo was actually pretty quick. 0 to 60 was 6.2 seconds. So that is quick, even by today's standards really, isn't it? And finally, the Vauxhall Chevette, which is another fabulous car. So this was, like I say, the Opel Kadett. This was the Opel Kadett, but with a different front end, which they call the droop snoot. And that was first seen on the old Forenza, the high performance Forenza, and the Magnum as well. They did sell these actually in a number of European countries, but when they dropped Opel from here, they also dropped Vauxhall from Europe. This is a 1975 brochure, so this is actually when the car first came out, because they did also do an estate and they did a saloon as well. They did a performance version that they took rallying, called the HS and then the HSR. Little story about Chevette. Some specs and stuff there. But yes, a little story about Chevette. So there's apparently when they were making the Austin Metro, they were designing the Austin Metro. They actually had a number of competitors' cars, and they basically tested them, not quite to destruction, but they tested them. And actually the Chevette, they said, was the crudest engineered, but actually it was the most reliable, and it went wrong the least. So, yeah, Rear-wheel drive also, never driven one, would like to. Be a Chevette, cool car. Replace them by the Nova and by the Corsa that we know today. So that's everything that I've received over the last few weeks. If you want me to go into any more detail about any of the brochures, just let me know. I'm sure I'll have some more soon. I'll probably, if you want more brochure videos, I can also go through different manufacturers that I have, though I will have to split them into models because I do have about 2,500. So not really going to be able to manage a whole manufacturer in one video unless you want an hour-long video, which I don't mind doing. If you've got any other things you want me to do, obviously I've given you an idea of some of the things I probably will be doing with this channel, but if you have any other ideas, then please do let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video, and you enjoyed my ramblings. If you did, please like it, please share it, that would be so helpful, because I really, really want to make something of this channel, and see where it can go. Please subscribe as well, that would be greatly appreciated, and I will see you soon in another video. Thank you very much.